Gavin.
Oh my God. Louis? Is that you?
That's right. Trapped inside Gavin's body. Ugh, fate worse than death.
Trapped in a box, deep cut of no doubt. Hey, girly girl.
Hey, Louis, how are you?
Let's touch through the screen. Let's rub our amulets and switch bodies back.
Grab our hourglasses.
Yeah.
And I hope that the serum wears off.
Right. I think have a lot of ancient artifacts in your nerd library room that I'm sure if we just touched at one time and said, I wish I was an X-Men.
Ancient artifacts. That's what I call my aching bones. Oh, honey.
Oh, honey. Hi, everyone. This is The Mixed Reviews.
We are a film podcast where we take a film subject such as an actor, director, or a mini genre, and we give you a big history, and then we take our reviews and we mix them all up.
The history, it's big, but it's cute. Okay, we keep it cute over here at The Mixed Reviews, where we're making it digestible, digestive.
We're basically the Tums after you've had a full meal.
Yes. Mix it go down easy, baby. We know it's been a little bit since we last, or you last heard from us, but we're back rolls again.
Back rolls?
I can always count on you, Gavin. I can always count on you. I set them up and you knock them down. We had a couple of life things happen as they do, but we are so excited and happy to be back. We're all washed up. Not washed up. Not yet. Okay.
Yeah, not yet. Maybe just one half of us.
I'm on my way. But yeah, Gavin, before we get into the good, I did want to say that two things. I watched Turning Red this past weekend. My favorite movie from last year was the Turning Red trailer, and it delivered. And the only sad thing is I wish I could have seen it in a theater. I really do. That
deep sigh you heard from me was me admitting I loved it. I loved it so much.
Yeah, I know, babe. But then number two, I took Derek to go see the Alamo Drafthouse is doing Miyazaki brunches or something, or there's a whole year-long thing of it. And I took him to go see Princess Mononoke. And it was really good. Like I remembered it was for our Miyazaki episode. I was just like, babe, what do you feel about, animated war, and talking about, modernity versus tradition? It's something light for the morning. And luckily he was very down, and he enjoyed it a lot. So, that all comes straight from The Mixed Reviews, because I had never seen Princess Mononoke before. And that was one of our earlier episodes, right?
Oh my God, that was... I did...
Year one. That was year one.
I did a slight, not really poll, but just to check in with our audience about what are their favorite episodes and some ideas for upcoming episodes. And we did actually have one response saying that it was the Miyazaki episode, which, shocked me because the earlier episodes you rarely hear people call them out, so it's nice to know that people still go back and people still listen to them.
Yeah, we were finding our feet back then. We were but children, podcast children. But anyway, do we have any old business, Gavin?
We do. We have the poll from last week, and we actually have a brand new review.
So our last episode, we talked about the iconic American actor, one of the greats, Sidney Poitier. And we asked you guys to vote on what your favorite film of his is. And it was a tight race. I have not seen a race like this, neck and neck, in a while. And it was overwhelming, but the first and second was really close. So funny story. Lilies of the Field came in at last place at 2.9%. His fucking Oscar movie, which, there's that. And then we get Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with 20% third place. And then in second place, just barely, it was leading for a little bit, but in second place is In the Heat of the Night with 37%. And in first place, our picks, Gavin, A Raisin in the Sun with 40%. I'm glad that people know.
Is this the first time that everybody's agreed with us? Maybe not. But it feels like it. It feels like the first time, baby. And that's beautiful. But yeah, I mean, A Raisin in the Sun, it's how do you beat that performance? It's so good. It's so lived in. It's so passionate. And I don't know. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie.
I would say it's not like the sexy pick of this bunch is In the Heat of the Night. And
yes.
I don't mean that in a bad way at all, because it is so good, but it is more stylish, I would say. A Raisin in the Sun really is like these character studies. Like, you know, we're not going a million places. There's not a lot going on. It's just these people interacting with each other. And it's just like, so good. I loved our Sydney episode. And
me too.
Loved watching, you know, all these classiques I had never seen In the Heat of the Night. Like, wow. Very good. Okay, moving on from Mr. Sidney Poitier.
And before we get into this week's subject, which is a fun one, we do have a review, and we do always say if you go to Apple Podcasts and you leave us a 5-star rating and a review, we'll read it on the show. And this one comes courtesy of Ms. Morgan R., who you may remember. She's been on the show before. And it says, deep dives at their best. As someone who grew up doing deep dives into an actor or a filmmaker's filmography, the Mixed Reviews podcast normalizes my favorite way of enjoying cinema. Gavin and Louis take great care as they explore the work of each of their podcast subjects. Do I think the Lynn Shelton episode is the best? Yes. Am I perhaps a little biased? Maybe. Regardless, this podcast is the true definition of a must listen.
Normalize being a fucking freak.
Yeah, exactly. Someday we're all just going to have giant brains, and it's because you listen to this podcast.
There you go. Thank you, Morgan.
Oh, thank you, Morgan. It's so nice of you to do that, and we really appreciate it.
It's time to get into that new, and I'm very excited about this very dumb subject that we are talking about today.
You said it.
It's very, very dumb, but I think this is good, like, fan favorite written all over it. There are so many movies in this mini genre that I think people know, people love. And then there's also ones that are just like super kooky booky out of the box. So Gavin, tell the children, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about the mystical, the magical, the sometimes mundane body swap movies.
Ooh. Okay, we had a long conversation about like what is a body swap movie.
We did. We actually, those words left our mouths.
Yeah, and what is not a body swap movie, more importantly.
Sorry, Big.
Yeah, so before we get into it, we just gotta like lay down the rules. We said a body swap movie for the purpose of this episode and for what we were gonna watch is a movie where two alive human beings swap their souls, spirits, whatever, with each other. So no de-aging movies. So No Big, no Little. No movies where someone has died and comes back into someone else's body. So no...
All of Me.
Yeah.
No,
Down
I mean...
to Earth or whatever.
Yeah, Heaven Can Wait. Sorry. Those are called possessions. We have a whole other category for them.
Yeah. So there are... Those are like, oh, and also no animals, like no multiple personality. Like it's just, there is one person, there is another person, and through antics, more often than not, racist shit, your souls and spirits swap. And then you, I don't know, learn about yourself, learn about each other.
Yeah.
And then
you walk a mile in their shoes, you know?
That's just like Iggy Azalea, is that right? I think that's...
I don't... That's a reference I don't understand.
Your face just then was like, alert, not for me. I don't know. Boop. I think she says, walk a mile in my Louboutins. So think about that, Gavin.
Sorry, I'm a Nicki fan. You know, pull up in the Sri Lanka.
Okay, this is getting very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. We are all just like you don't get the Iggy Azalea reference. I don't get TikTok references. We're all just like drowning in
culture, content.
Our 30s. But yes, okay, so with that being said, and now everyone knowing that like what movies do not qualify, I feel like as a kid, I remember being like, these movies were everywhere, or it felt like they were everywhere.
Yeah.
There were certainly a lot of like made for TV movie situations where it's like, you know, Freaky Friday, the knockoff situation. What's the first body swap movie you remember?
Oh God, the first body swap movie I remember, I think it has to, I never saw the original Freaky Friday until this very episode. So it certainly wasn't the original Freaky Friday. I think it either had to be the 1988 version of Vice Versa or like Father Like Son, which is...
I think came out in the same year.
Yes, yeah. Which... Neither of them. Oh, 1987. So Like Father, Like Son was technically a year before. Which, neither of them great. Neither. I revisited them for this.
They're fun.
But they're fun. But I think it was, and so it's interesting that the my first impressions of body swap films were very masculine and more about that. Whereas, Freaky Friday comes from the feminine angle. It's two ladies.
Yes. And I think it would be hard to argue that Freaky Friday is not the most popular body swap movie. There's obviously been a lot of them, but like the Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis version is kind of, at least within our millennial and or millennial adjacent lives, even though there are so many. I can't remember what my first one was. I'm pretty sure I'd seen the original Freaky Friday before, just because it's so like, oh no, and graphics. They love the graphics. But yeah, I like this genre a lot. It's very stupid, but it's just very easy to get to like the point here. It's like the point is, what if I was not myself? And what would happen if I, it's like the whole grass is greener situation. It's a very easy way to tell that story and being like, oh, fuck, maybe I should empathize with this person a little bit more. Or, oh, someone's struggles aren't just easier because they're not mine. Or, does that make sense? It's this idea that like we learn from being together and like understanding each other, and what better way to understand than like actually live a day in someone else's shoes. The cobbler.
I do think, and this is maybe something interesting to talk about in the history, but it's hard to create tension in these movies without the fear of the swap being permanent.
Yeah.
And I hate that. But we'll get into it. But that's because I think that adds a layer of like, oh no, like I am learning to be like you. But I guess also that way it creates that need for the person to start to become more like the other person, or either improve their lives in ways that they weren't aware of, or improve their own lives by following the path of the person that they've swapped with, if that makes sense. But I think that added level of like, oh no, I'm going to have to live my life as someone else for the rest of my life is such an odd thing. And I admit there's some films that I watched that did it beautifully. And then there's some films that I watched that I was just like, I don't care about you.
Stop talking about the hot chick that way, Gavin. God.
Ling Ling, you forgot your bling bling.
Never ending. But okay, let's get into the rewind. So body swaps are interesting, and I think here's where I'm coming at this from. Like the idea of body swaps and how we even get there, how popular culture gets here, really goes all the way back to 1689. John Locke, who was a philosopher, writer, wrote an essay concerning human understanding. And what he wrote, essentially, like the TLDR version of it, is that our bodies are just vessels. We are just vessels, and it's through our experiences is how we learn things. And so it's through that idea and understanding that, we're not born any type of way. It's not innately in us. These are all learned. And so it's through that and the popularization of this essay through time. The idea is, you could swap out your experiences into another vessel. We are all but vessels. So that's like the very, very early stuff. The first, and Gavin, let me know if you found something different, but the first proper body swap story was 1882's Vice Versa.
The only thing that I can find that remotely counts, Mary Shelley did write a story called Transformation, in which a young man and a dwarf switch brains.
And see, that's interesting. Like, literal brains or
no. So,
okay.
supernatural.
It's Mary Shelley, so I don't know.
yeah. Through a supernatural ritual.
So Vice Versa was written by Thomas Anty Guthrie. And he was like in his 20s when he wrote Vice Versa, A Lesson to Father. And this is 1882. Thomas is like a 20-something, and he's like a humorist. He writes, funny stories for this magazine called Punch Magazine. And basically Vice Versa is this like stuffy old businessman switches places with his son, who is like this little Catholic schoolboy who doesn't want to go to school, Daddy. You don't understand how mean the boys are. It's literally very that. That's kind of the urtext, if you will.
They make the first version of the film in 1948, directed by Peter Ustinov, who's an actor I really like. And I don't think he really got to direct too many films, but he was like a British theater hall actor at first.
Before 1946, in that movie, we do get 1931's Turnabout. Right off the bat, what we're getting with body swap movies is, for these to work, people can't have a lot of nuance, I would say. Yeah. Like, it needs to be the bratty child, but the bratty child can't be anything but a brat, and the dad can only be like the stubborn, hardline dad. Like, the opposites need to be that extreme for it to work. And on top of that, there needs to be the vehicle for the exchange. Right off the bat, in both of these movies, the vehicle is
racist, super racist.
Artifacts of the ancient world, the mythic world. I don't fucking. In Vice Versa, it's literally like the eye of the hyena god in India. In Turnabout, it's
an Indian statue that
it's supposed to be a statue. It's literally a guy in drag wearing it's like statue guy in Times Square.
Statue guy in Times Square in blackface drag.
Yeah, and also it's like only half of his body. Like, I was like, they made this man sit in that room. I don't understand. So in Turnabout is about a husband and wife who this movie, you get through half this movie and they still have not switched. I was like, Alexa, hello? Like, when is this going to happen? The funny thing about Turnabout is they decide to keep the voices of the actual people. Yeah. And so they dub over, like, the female actress dubbed the lines over that the man was saying. And so it's very bizarre, and they have to try and explain away, like, oh, she has a cold, and for whatever reason, like, your souls swapped, but, like, your voices didn't. Oh no, the souls swapped and the voices did too.
And the voices did, yeah.
The voices traveled with, which doesn't make any sense.
The souls and the vocal cords.
Yes, correct. It's like, yes, that man, his vocal cords are gone now. They're in that woman. That movie is very like, tut, 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 girly. Don't you know anything? And she has to like learn how good her husband is and like how much he actually works and how her life is so frivolous.
Yeah, and how she gets to stay home with the garden club.
I know, and literally the stakes of that movie are like, oh no, she offended the garden club, and I cannot believe you talk to me this way. I wouldn't recommend.
I have to get up and go to work, and you loll around in bed, and you call yourself a man.
Oh, no, I don't. Not anymore.
I agree with you. I rarely say this because I always think like embedded in all media with the appropriate context, there is perhaps a reason to consume it. And I think I try to approach everything with this show with that thought process that like every bit like helps me learn, as long as I can contextualize it in a way that's helpful and not reductive. And I don't think there's any reason for anyone to see Turnabout at all.
it's truly like the building blocks of this genre, and they really were just like flying by the seat of their pants. Like it was happening as they were doing it. I mean, clearly this movie informed the genre, saying, hey, we cannot have the voices swapped. That makes no fucking sense. And I'm sure, I mean, even looking at it, like the dubbing is bad. Like they didn't have the technology to do it. And also like those fucking poor actors having to learn like a billion lines and like, blah, 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 blah. No, it just didn't fucking work. But a lot of the building blocks stayed, you know, like a lot of these movies look to like
Orientalism.
Yes, very that. Like, it's always some fucking crazy, you know, like, jewel that was found somewhere, god.
I think it's easy to forget how racist our society is and can be. And so that doesn't change ever, almost. I mean, there are still films that are made in the 2000s that have body swap components that, you know, have something to do with some sort of Orientalism or, you know, even the ones that think they're trying to be progressive and do something interesting. I mean, I watched this and I don't know if it'll get brought up again, so I might as well bring it up. I watched this 1999 Disney TV movie called A Saintly Switch, directed by Peter Bogdanovich.
I saw the thing just now and I was like, okay, how did I fucking miss this?
It involves a voodoo curse brought about by two children. It is a black family, but the like voodoo expert that they bring in to help them out is fucking Rue McClanahan from the Golden Girls.
Right. She was free.
Yeah, it's like, so you need a white woman to teach the black people about voodoo? Something that comes from black culture. Like, so it's there. It's like that sort of racism, that thing that keeps popping up in all of these films, or a vast majority of them. It's unfortunate because it is a subtext.
It's this fear of the unknown.
Exactly. And I was just going to say, I get it. I know white people are scared of the unknown, and the thing that represents the unknown is people that don't look like them. But it was one of two factors that made this episode incredibly hard for me. I will be honest.
I mean, I think there are some movies that handle it better than others.
Yes.
And then there are also some that just like fucking go all the way in. I mean, like we're talking very early now, but I mean, I remember when we watched Freaky Friday for Jamie Lee Curtis, I was like, holy shit. It is not only like Asian women and fortune cookies, it's literally them dressed up like at their fucking Chinese restaurant. And
just like a gong every time they switch. And like, it's like, this is not okay.
It's so aggressive because I think and we'll get to it, but there are some movies where it's just like, it just happens and no one gives a fuck. No one gives a fuck that like how it happens. Like, it's fantasy. Just tell us that they wished and they swapped and it's fine.
And like, just to bring us back to where we were, 1948's Vice Versa, as you mentioned, one of the earliest ones based off that novel. I outside of the racism at the beginning, there were things I really enjoyed in this movie. I think it's a little long. It could have been shorter, but the transformation itself, while not
funny.
Yeah, exactly. Not particularly impressive when you think about what we can do with movies now, but they physically form into each other's bodies, and the way they do it in this is body parts just start disappearing on them.
Yeah.
So the father's like wandering around without a head before turning into a child.
Right.
And
I mean, they were really clever with their editing back. I mean, back in the fucking 40s, they must have just been like chopping and screwing, you know, but also like
matting. It's a lot of matting.
Physical, you know, prop work and just trick of the eye. It's very silly.
I wish... No! I wish I was a man just like you were just now.
We're gonna zip ahead a little bit just because really, like, this pops all the way off thanks to Mary Rogers when she wrote Freaky Friday.
Yes.
And for a modern audience, this is, you know, the beginning of what we would call, like, you know, the modern age of body swap in media. Mary Rogers, by the fucking way, you know who her dad was?
No.
Richard Rogers of Rogers and Hammerstein.
Oh, well, that's so much better than Roy Rogers of the restaurant.
Correct. That's a hard no. Her family is so talented. She was casually hanging out with Stephen Sondheim. I think their son won a Tony for writing something. She wrote like, I'm just happy that my life wasn't outshone by my dad. Like I could stand on my own with my own talent.
I wonder, and like obviously I don't know if she's still with us or not. I wonder.
She's not.
Okay, I was gonna say I wonder how she feels about the Freaky Friday musical, but we'll get there.
Yeah, so she writes Freaky Friday in 1972, and it's the book. It's a huge success. You know, it's the classic story. A kind of bratty teen, swaps with the uptight mom. And it spawns at least 2 sequels in the books. There's The Summer Switch. In 2009, she also wrote, along with someone else, Freaky Monday. And it's where a student swaps with a teacher.
Sounds very popular. Sounds like a lot of people know about that.
Yes. I mean, so in 1976 is when they make the movie. It was directed by Gary Nelson. And iconically, Jodie Foster plays the young teen girl. Who is the mom in Freaky Friday?
Barbara Harris. And I have to say, Barbara Harris is gorgeous in this movie. It's so beautiful that I was just like, this is the mom? I was a little shocked watching it. I was like, oh wow. I was like, that is a one hot mom.
What we haven't gotten to yet, or you know what? We should rewind a little bit because literally in Turnabout in 1940, I can't remember. Maybe you will. Do you remember if they do like boobies gag or not?
I don't remember specifically that because there is so much of that, and so maybe I'm confusing it with other things. But I do. There is a gag, and once again, I'll spoil it for you because I don't think you should watch Turnabout. There's a gag about the wife being pregnant, and then when they switch back bodies, the racist statue has accidentally left the man pregnant.
Yeah.
And that's the like big haha at the end of the movie. So
Gotcha,
so there is like a little bit about, like genitalia and like
right. Yeah. Well, they literally sleep in separate beds. It's the 40s. But
how did they get pregnant anyways?
Yeah. In Freaky Friday, it's again kind of like laying down the very easy formula. The kid can't do the dishes, does it? Like, oh no, it overflows the fucking washer and dryer, and the mom doesn't know how to the most bizarre thing for me is like when the parents have to go to school and they don't know how to like act around teachers. Right. When they're like, I declare, is this the way you're going to teach your class? It's like, what the are you a human being? But again, like for these to work, they need. Or not they need, but I think a lot of filmmakers, a lot of these movies think that they need to really exaggerate, the differences between people as opposed to like, and maybe that because the easy path for this type of genre, this movie genre is like show the extreme differences and then show the similarities and then we're back, Yeah. I think there are movies that defy that track a little bit and are really successful and also show that, I don't know, humans are fucking smart. But, I get what they're trying to do. Okay, so Freaky Friday really like hits off, this kind of phenomenon. People love it.
I will say one thing about it that shocked me is it's incredibly low stakes in comparison to a lot of these, part of which is because the mom doesn't appear to have a job, which is like a shitty thing for them to do because then she can just sort of, she's like hanging out with her teen's boyfriend or like her daughter's
crush,
which like at least makes a little sense because it is the daughter in the mother's body when she's playing baseball with kids and everything. But also like it doesn't even feel like there's like really any urgency for them to switch back. And I know I was just saying like how much I hate the fear of being stuck that way forever, but it's such a chill, like, whatever, that I was just like, okay, what's happening here?
It's like the mom is on like the skis or whatever, on the water skis, and she's like, yeah, I guess I have to hold on. And it's like,
yeah.
what?
Also, the internal logic of the movie is very strange because when they first switch bodies, it's only their minds. But when they switch back, they literally switch positions.
Correct.
Which is an odd.
Yeah, which feels like something that they were like, shh, it's fine. It's fine.
I wish I could switch places with her for just one day.
It's also worth noting that this movie, literally, they just wish that they were each other at the same time in the morning, and in snap, it happens. Some movies, it takes like, they have to go to bed and they wake up, or whatever. This is literally, they're in the kitchen, they wish it happens, which is something to note.
It's funny because people refer to Freaky Friday as being the thing that kicks off the body swap movies, but really, it's not until the late 80s that, like, in the US, it really starts to kick off and is really, like, into, you know, sort of the zeitgeist, you know?
Right.
But I do want to give one shout out to a movie that I found that I really liked, which is and I'm going to butcher this and I'm so sorry, but the Nobuhiko Obayashi film, IRU, You Am Me, in which two Japanese students fall down a staircase at a shrine and switch bodies. It's a teen boy and a teen girl. And that movie does have a slight amount of the uncomfortable, like, I have boobs now, I'm a teenage boy but I thought most of it was like really touching and really like existential and really beautifully handled. Most people know Obayashi because he made this movie called Hausu or House, which we talked a little bit about in our Ghosts on Film episode, because it is a Japanese film about a haunted house, and it's like live action Scooby-Doo with like fingers dancing in the air and things popping out of. This movie's nothing like that. This movie's very serious, but also has like a joyful spirit to it. And he actually ends up getting to remake this movie again in the 2000s. But I will talk about that when we get there. So yes, you're right. I want to say in America, the late 80s is when we really start getting this vast amount of body swap films.
Right. And I think what's significant here is kind of what you said earlier. You know, I would say all of them are male centric. They're masculine centric. It's father with son, father with son with grandfather, and there's also like an aggressive romantic element to it. It's not just like, oh, you know, I have a crush or whatever. But okay, so Like Father Like Son, which was directed by Rod Daniel, it stars God, who the fuck? It's Kirk Cameron. Yikes-a-roni. Yeah, boo, tomato. And
Dudley Moore.
Dudley Moore.
Which is really unfortunate because Dudley Moore is very funny and there's no jokes in this movie.
Yeah, it's weird. I was watching this movie and I was like, is Dudley Moore hot?
I can see it.
Is it just the hair? I don't know. Again, this movie has to posit that like being a teen is fucking radical and crazy. Exactly. And I don't know that this fucking doctor, the father who's a doctor, like can change the world through being the CEO of this hospital or something. I don't know
that this doctor was ever a teenager, because the way that he acts as Kirk Cameron is just like deranged. And that's also one of my big issues with a lot of these body swap movies is the approach to, if it is an adult swapping with a teen, the approach to being a teen is so bonkers. Yeah. Like it's almost like being a teenager, and I get it, like emotions run high, there's a lot of mood swings, but a lot of these filmmakers seem to believe that being a teenager is a mental illness.
Right, or just being a teenager is like blasting music and like being so inconsiderate of like people. It's
Dudley Moore, the first time he's like home alone, he just like blasts music, and I was like, that's it? That's the one thing you could think of? Like,
yeah, it's like so extreme. Like, get this guy a Nerf gun. It's like, okay. And meanwhile, like Kirk Cameron, right? That's his fucking name.
yes.
As the father, like, he's like, let's spend some plastic and like drink and talk to girls.
What the hell have you done to me?
Dad, can you hold it down a little?
You're drunk. You're drunk.
No, I'm dead.
You're damn right you're dead. Jesus, Chris, look at you. You've been out all night doing God knows what in my body.
Right!
Using my cash, probably boozing it up. And where in the hell did you get the money to pay for an outfit like that? I only had $20 in my wallet.
Well, Dad...
My credit card. You used my credit cards. Get in the house. You are grounded. For the rest of your life.
Yeah, all right, lean on him! Not yours.
Maybe it's because we're not straight human beings, Gavin, but like also this thing where it's like filmmakers think that young men don't know how to like literally just be a normal human being around women.
Yeah.
It's just like
I mean, I've seen that. I've seen it. That's correct.
It's very bizarre, and I was like, but and not to mention the entire crazy kooky world of like all of these movies. We're gonna get to it where it's like, are they gonna kiss in that body? Is that weird? I don't know. Did they more than kiss? What's going on?
Yeah, because also, like, where does consent come in then, too? Because you're not who you say you are.
Yes. And this is not your body.
I will say, in terms of the device for what swaps their body, in this, it's a indigenous created serum that eventually just wears off on its own, but it's used by these indigenous people essentially to stop the pain of another, which I didn't fully understand, because if you're swapping bodies with somebody, then that other person is experiencing the pain.
Right. At the beginning, it's like they're like, no, white person, don't feel this pain. I will feel
this pain, which is a racism of its own.
Yes.
But
also, it's a racism because Native Americans don't fucking make potions to swap bodies.
Right, exactly. And so I was like, I guess you tried, but not really.
Yeah. Who is the other little fuck in this movie? Sean Astin. That's the best
Sean
friend.
Astin.
Who,
the best, in my opinion, the best part of the movie.
He's the one who's just his uncle found the potion.
Yes.
There is one fun gag where like the dog and the cat swap bodies because he gives them the potion. That's kind of funny. After like Father Like Son in 1988, we get 18 Again. I swear to God, in like the late 80s, there was, it must have been a deluge of scripts, and they were like, we got to get ours made now. 18 Again. Which I think is actually pretty fun. It's one of those classic late 80s movies where, like, all the boys in school wear crop tops for no reason. For fashion. Okay? Directed by Paul Andrew Flaherty. I don't know how to say that name. Flaherty? Whatever.
That sounds right.
18 Again, exclamation point. This is a grandson and grandfather, and they swap bodies via car accident. They're in a car together. Grandpa is like 1 billion years old and is dating like a young woman. He's got a bunch of money. He was the stud in high school. He, ran track and was a star. Grandson is not the stud, kind of a loser, doing his best to make it through. His father is also trying to, prove to his father that he can like run the business and he can do the thing. If you think that if you just accept that this movie is not reality, it's really fun.
Yeah,
I think it's really fun. It's like, it's very heightened what a college looks like, or not college, but high school looks like, the parties they throw. It's giving you a little bit of Never Been Kissed, when he like is like, I know what the theme for the party's gonna be, and the party's like so fun.
It's Red and Wild.
Yeah, it's red and wild. There's a theme. This movie has like the stake is the stakes are like, oh no, he changed his will, and if he dies, because that's the gag. The grandson is parading around, and it's grandpa inside the body. He's like, I love my new body. Meanwhile, the actual grandson is in the hospital, not doing anything because his grandpa body was literally in a car accident.
His grandpa body.
His grandpa body, his old man body. So I think, unless you saw something else, like this is the first time we see like it's really focused on one person doing the swap. The attention is really on the kid, which, you know, I think is helpful. Again, like it's a way out of like, oh, like I don't want to fucking see, like the kid really had nothing to do as the grandpa to like learn anything, I guess, you know? But I liked 18 Again. Thought it was good fun. In 88, we get the remake of Vice Versa, which also is kind of like, whoa, radical. The 80s are crazy. Isn't the dad like work at a mall? Or he's like the mall?
Well, he's like an executive at the like, but they like run the big box store, but also it's like attached to that.
Right.
I guess it's more like a Macy's almost. It's like a corporate Macy's, you know.
Right. I don't know how malls worked in the 80s. They were very popular.
This version stars Fred Savage and Judge Reinhold. Judge Reinhold blamed this film for really the downfall of his career because he oh yeah. The other side of that is he was also apparently very difficult to work with in general, and so he had a reputation.
I mean, I think he's actually really good in this. Like,
I do too. I was shocked at how good both of them are.
Yeah, Fred Savage is great.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel. I think because Fred Savage is like not a teen, like closer to like 11 or so.
Yeah, he's a boy.
That the Judge Reinhold's like antics feel more realistic.
Right. I mean, if a little boy would want to go into a music shop and play the drums and like just have fun, like a lot of what this little boy wants is kind of like a normal life and, you know, to have fun and play music. It's not like I want to turn up the radio really loud and be an asshole. It's just like, oh yeah, at this place you can play drums and like the guy's really cool. Like,
right.
And a lot of it is being like, hey dad, like this isn't embarrassing. Everyone's actually having a good time and it's okay. Meanwhile, dad is like, stick up his ass and like, how could you embarrass me a little?
It's interesting because it's less as though Fred Savage has to learn a lesson. He just gets to kind of hang out and make his father seem less uptight. Right. But his father, Judge Reinhold's character in Fred Savage's body, has to learn to be so much less of a dick.
Right. But also, I mean, the age difference is really key here because like an 11-year-old shouldn't have to be learning any lessons really about, you know, being a good person or whatever. Like it's an 11-year-old boy. Judge Reinhold's character, like he should, you know how to treat his son. He should know to like fucking show some kindness and be more and make good decisions like on the business side, make good decisions with his family.
And make good decisions about his relationship. He's in a relationship with a woman who clearly loves him and he doesn't know how to express it. And this like the purity of Fred Savage is like it's like oozing out where he's like, I love you. Like,
doesn't the kid, he asks her to marry him. Like he's the one who does it.
Yeah.
And like once they switch back, like he's like, oh my God, thank you for doing that for me. Because I do love her. I liked, I also liked Vice Versa. I will say Susie Kurtz as the villain. Yes. So they swap because of like thieves have stolen an ancient artifact in like Thailand. And by some antics, it gets to him because he's ordering, I don't know, fabric or some shit from Thailand.
It was jars. He was ordering jars.
Right. Right. Of course, they need jars. Yeah, it's Silly Billy, like, and there's like an other swap at the end with like Susie Kurtz and her like henchmen, and they're like, "You think it's easy being a henchman?" Blah, 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 blah.
And I love that the implication there is they will probably never swap back because Judge Reinhold and Fred Savage steal the skull back from them, and then they get arrested.
Right. Yeah.
So they're just trapped forever.
You drink a lot, huh, Dad?
Only under stress. And I think the last 3 days come under that category.
The last of this little canon is 1989's Dream a Little Dream.
Yes, which is a very odd one in terms of I mean, I get at this point, you know, you've now had 4 years of this sort of very specific, like very following the rules sort of genre. So they try to spice it up. They try to switch it up. It's a Corey's movie, both Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman, Jason Robards, Piper Laurie, and Meredith Salinger all kind of switch places. But the thing is Piper Laurie in Meredith Salinger doesn't know she's in Meredith Salinger. And Corey Feldman has Jason Robards in him, but his mind instead is trapped in a dream world.
This movie tries to elevate, or like it wants to be more thoughtful. It's trying to like say something about love and like, yeah, I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know. This movie's fucking weird.
Yeah.
It's trying to have its cake and eat it too, because it's trying to have the fun of Vice Versa and 18 Again and like the excess of the 80s, but it's also trying to like have meditation and, you know, come on, man, you got one life to live, and like, but also like Corey Feldman is being a full asshole in this guy's head, being like, you don't know how to change it back? Well, I'm not going to tell you. I'm up here. She's leaving, man. What are you going to do if she leaves?
It's such an odd premise that Corey Feldman knows how to switch back and is refusing to give that information.
Yeah,
and I don't really understand that.
Well, also, like, so the older people have disappeared. They are in a dream world. Like, we don't see them. We only see Corey Feldman as, or we see the old man as Corey Feldman. And it's very weird because I don't think Corey Feldman really got the assignment.
No.
He is fully just acting as himself. And even in the situations where he, like, fucks up and says something that the old man would know or whatever, it's just Corey Feldman. There is, he
it's
has
also,
one.
It's also Corey Feldman at the height of his, like, Michael Jackson obsession.
Jesus Christ. They
so
said,
it's a lot.
They said, give him a musical number. Give him a musical number.
Yeah. It's a lot of hip thrusting, moonwalking,
they give him a glove. It's nonsense. I mean, they tried something, I guess. And truly, like, this swap is, they're like, the old man wants to meditate, and while he's meditating with his wife, Corey Feldman and this young girl, they all like kind of run
collide
into each other.
Yeah. He's on a bike. The young girl is running. Right. A collision occurs, and he wakes up as Jason Robards in his body. And like, listen, there's some fun situations there, but I think also one of the things that we haven't really talked about, but we've talked about, but we haven't really gone in depth on, is one of the joys of watching a body swap movie is watching an actor portray something that they're not. Yeah. And to either great results, like we were just talking about with Vice Versa, and Judge Reinhold pulling off, you know, Fred Savage as an adult, versus this where it, like, yeah, as you said, Corey Feldman doesn't know how to do Jason Robards, so he just does himself.
Right. I mean, I think probably, you know, he was at the height of his popularity. Like, he's like, I can do whatever and people are going to love it and eat it up. And doesn't really work. Yeah. He thinks he's in a regular, like, rom-com where he just has to be charming or whatever. And it's bleh. Okay, in 1992, we get Prelude to a Kiss, which I finally watched, even though we've brought it up in 2 other episodes. Kathy Bates and
Stanley Tucci.
Stanley Tucci, who is so hot in this movie.
He's so hot in this movie. Oh my God.
In that opening scene where his like shirt's all open and he's like a little bit drunk, I was like, wow, this is doing something for me. I didn't know Prelude to a Kiss is a play.
Yes.
And it was a very successful, popular play, also starring Alec Baldwin and I believe Mary Louise Parker. How do we feel about Prelude to a Kiss?
I mean, it's bonkers. I don't know if it's bonkers in a good way, if it's bonkers in a bad way. I guess we should talk about the premise, which is that Alec Baldwin and Meg Ryan are getting married, and she's kind of unsure about it.
The differences here are that, like, Alec Baldwin's character is supposed to be conservative, very, like, kind of square. Meg Ryan's character is, like, this insomniac socialist, free spirit who doesn't want kids because the world is bad and, has all this anxiety. And they decide to get married really quickly because, like, this fall, like, it's kind of very sexy, very erotic. He, like, mentions, like, she's like, what's one of your fantasies? And he tells her, and she's like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm down.
But on their wedding day, an old man just wanders into their wedding and requests a kiss from the bride.
Yes.
And when he does so, they swap bodies.
Correct.
And she becomes a confused old man who is dying, and he becomes her. And it's such a strange thing because in most of these movies, it's like both characters are out of their league and they don't really know what they're doing. But he knows what he's doing. Like, this is a borderline malicious act if he wasn't, like, a kind of just a kindly old befuddled man.
Right.
Like, this almost feels evil.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if the movie does go out of its way to say, like, when they're like, he's like, I don't know how I did it. I'm dying. I just saw you're a beautiful couple and wanted, I wished that I would have done life better. I would have flossed. I would have taken care of myself, blah, blah, blah. The play was written and most people at the time, I mean, this came out in 1992 as a metaphor for the AIDS crisis. And just at the time about, the whole idea of, like, in sickness and in health, the stakes here aren't like, oh no, this is so fucking crazy. It's, I love this person. I love them so much. And, like, you can, like, really see the heartbreak in, like, Alec Baldwin's eyes in this movie. Like, when it's not even like I'm scared. It's like, where is she? Where is my wife? Like, I just want her back. I love her so much. And when he finds her as the old man, it's a little bit confused, but it's also very, like, I thought I lost you, and we have to switch you back because this old man is dying, and if you only have 1 year left, like, what am I gonna do? And watching it now outside of the AIDS epidemic, I think it's still very much about, like, if talking about, like, health issues and the problems that we face as people, obviously with different health things, and would you still be with someone if they only had a year left to live? And that type of stuff. So I think there's, like, definitely some really good investigations here. I like that it's literally just, there's a monologue in the movie that, like, kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't, about, like, how it happened, why it happened. Because, like, they kiss and nothing happens. They're like, oh, fuck, it's not about the kiss. And they realize it's about wanting. It's about, the dream
And listen, I'm full well versed in the fact that this is a bonkers movie, and there's an entire episode of How Did This Get Made about this film. But I do think this movie is maybe a little unfairly maligned because I do think there's stuff worth talking about, especially all the things that you just said that I think make it very interesting. And I think the performances are also particularly pretty good.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, does it work all the time? No. But I think it also probably suffers from, like, being transferred from the stage to a movie. Like, I think there are a lot of things here that do work, especially their relationship. You can tell that they, like, knew these characters really well. And also, I just like that it really zips over any of the like, oh my God, my body, this is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and he's like fine being a younger woman. He's like, cool, I guess that's what I do now. Like,
yeah, he's like really, and he does like at the end, he's like, I went everywhere to try and figure out what your favorite drinks are. He wanted to become this woman. He was like, I'm willing to, you know, say fuck off to my old life and be the woman you want me to be, which is like very interesting and weird.
You read her journal, didn't you? You figured out how to fix your hair from the pictures in the albums. What she drinks. Where is she? Please. I won't be angry. You can go back wherever you came from and I won't tell a soul. You don't even have to tell me who you are. Just tell me where Rita is. And we'll pretend this never took place.
In 95, we get the first Freaky Friday remake for ABC Sunday, whatever. I forgot what it was called. I remember watching every Sunday on ABC. They had the Family Night movies.
yes.
Shelley Long is in this movie. Is that Shelley Long? It's Shelley
Yeah,
Long, right?
it's Shelley Long and Gabby Hoffman. I watched this. I've now seen
Gabby Hoffman, if you can believe.
Yes,
Oh my God.
I've now seen all 4 of the Freaky Friday movies. This one I liked. I'll be honest. I think it's maybe a little underrated. I mean, it's very TV movie, and the score is very like womp 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 womp. Yeah, but I think actually Shelley Long doing Gabby Hoffman is good and not deranged. It doesn't feel like she's suffering from a mental illness. She feels like just a wild kind of teenager. And I think Gabby Hoffman is actually very good doing like Shelley Long's inside of me. But I do my favorite thing. And, you know, it basically follows the same plot, except for the mother has a job. She works for a clothing company, and the daughter is on the diving team. And Shelley Long is scared of heights. And so like that, those are the big, like, but at least stakes. At least there's actually stakes in this version.
I remember this movie. I didn't rewatch it, but as soon as you said diving team, I was like, oh, I remember it crystal clear now.
But I want to give a shout out because I think the cast is also very good. You have Jackie Hoffman, a very young Andrew Keegan. You have Eileen Brennan of Clue fame, and she's been in many other movies, but I always think of Clue. Sandra Bernhardt as a fashion designer.
Yes.
And Carol Kane in 2 different roles.
This was at the time, I mean, it was 1995, right? Like,
yes,
ABC Sunday nights, they were pulling the names, okay? This is what everyone was watching. In 96, you get A Wish Upon a Star. We get a young Katherine Heigl doing her thing. I love this movie. Okay.
I had never seen it before, and I love the funny thing is like I love Danielle Harris. Danielle Harris is a scream queen extraordinaire. Halloween 4, Halloween 5, Rob Zombie's Halloween, which was like 20 years later and she's still playing a teen, and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Like, I love Danielle Harris. And Danielle Harris says to this day, this is one of her favorite movies of hers because nobody cast her in comedies. And so
she's funny.
She's so funny. She said she will stop and watch this whenever it's on. Absolutely.
The music by Moonpools and Caterpillars, very iconic.
I had not heard that song in years.
Please press pause. Go check on your little Spotify or Apple Music, whatever. Moonpools and Caterpillars. They are a Filipino rock band, or Filipino American rock band. They have like 2 really aggressively good songs. This and again, like this movie, it's Popular Girl and Nerdy Girl,
yes.
And it's literally just wishing upon a star for the transformation, and that's literally all we need.
Yeah, and they're sisters. One's a tall blonde, one's a short brunette, and like one's good at school, and one, like you said, one's popular. But I like that in this, you know, as like extreme as it was for them to like start trying to ruin each other's lives because
Yeah.
Like Danielle Harris wears an insane outfit to school
Insane
at one point,
outfit.
like a
Yeah.
bondage outfit.
I was like, where'd she get that?
Yeah, but I really liked the dynamic, and I really like how it's played. And yeah, there's some like, it's a TV movie, so there's some like, you know, dialogue issues there.
Right. I think why this works though is like, it feels like these are things that sisters would do to each other, even though some of them are kind of crazy or kind of wild. At the end, you know, they're like, hey, we don't know what's going to happen. Like, I want to win this science fair so badly, please. And they make sacrifices for each other to really, or maybe not sacrifices, but they actually really do try to help each other out after, you know, they're being like, because I think what we haven't talked about also with these movies is there's a lot of, you know, the swap happens and it's like, oh, this is great. We love this. and reaping the benefits and rewards of being in someone's shoes and being like, yeah, what the fuck is she complaining about? This is so easy. I love this. Yada, yada, yada. In this movie specifically, you know, there's a big point where the younger sister has a huge crush on her older sister's boyfriend. And there is perhaps a rumor that she hooks up with him, and the older sister in the younger sister's body is like, what the fuck? I'm a virgin. Like, please, please.
What next, Haley? What, are you gonna lose my virginity too?
You're a virgin?
Yes, I'm a virgin. I have morals, Haley. You obviously don't know very much about me.
Wow, I mean, Kayla and I were sure that you and Kyle were... Well, I didn't do anything like that, except kiss. A lot.
I like that they're playing off these assumptions, and it's because they're teenagers, they are already faking who they are. You know, they are projecting a different person already to the world. And so I think the swap really does a really good job for them of like deconstructing that projection, and they're able to just be more of their real selves by swapping with their sisters, which is really cool. And I think it really works.
I will say that's my favorite scene in this movie, actually, the virgin talk, and that occurs in the bathroom. I also do want to say, and like, listen, maybe this is not exactly what happened, but it is a body swap movie between two women.
Yes.
And it's both written by a woman and directed by a woman. And I'm just positing that maybe
I don't
that's
know.
the reason that it's like a little more introspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Was I going to say something else?
Can I mention another one real quick that occurs in the same year, 1996?
Yes.
There's an Australian film called Dating the Enemy, in which Guy Pearce and Claudia Karvan are a couple that have since split, and they swap bodies. And first they start to try and ruin each other's lives, and then they realize, like, no, they shouldn't do that. And then they realize that they should maybe be together. But first of all, Guy Pearce, so hot in this movie. So very, very hot, even though he's a complete and total asshole. And part of me was rooting against them. Part of me was like, girl, you can do better. But they both end up having sex as each other.
Wow.
And it's not like that weird of a, like, Guy Pearce in her body, he sleeps with his best friend, actually. And like his thought is like, soccer's gonna be a little weird after this. But also he was kind of like, that's it? Like that's what it's like for a woman?
I'm fully shook because I was like, you know, yeah, it's so annoying that like the trope of like they wake up and they're like, oh my god, tits, oh my god, a penis, whatever, which happens a lot. But I was like, I guess like dudes like touching their dicks, like, you know, and so I can imagine if a girl woke up inside of a man's body, she'd be like, I want to touch that dick. And honestly, like, I have a very flat chest. I have no pecs at all. I imagine if I had like nice titties, I'd be like, hey, what's going on here? And so
I'm getting there.
But I'm also very shook though. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck my best friend. I'm gonna do that.
Well, his best friend sort of seduces him, and he's kind of like, no, at first, and then he's kind of like, I guess I'll just go with it.
That's weird, right?
Yeah. But I was actually, I would rather it sort of happen in one of these movies. And once again, another film directed by a woman. So maybe that's why she was like, okay, like, you know,
she's like, no, I want this guy to fuck her best friend.
Yeah. And to be like, now you get it. Now it's now you know it's not so easy for women to have an orgasm.
Or to know that it's not so easy to tell a guy no.
Yeah. So I do actually really recommend that movie, directed by Megan Simpson Huberman. But yeah, I also 99's aforementioned A Saintly Switch, same deal, Sunday night movie. That movie stars David Alan Grier and Vivica A. Fox, and they're the ones that switch bodies. And Vivica A. Fox is very good at doing David Alan Grier, and David Alan Grier, whom I love, is terrible at being like Vivica A. Fox's character is written like being a woman is a mental illness, just
God.
like crying all the time.
I mean, but like, yeah, I mean, it's I imagine it's the classic thing of like women are just like flailing and everything is so crazy. Like,
and he's a football player, so she's like, oh, why do we have to hit each other? And it's like, okay, guys, she knows what football is,
right? Women know what football is. It's fine. Moving ahead, 2000s Exchange, this Canadian trash pile.
Oh my God, so fucking like bad, but like, I'll be honest, never dull. Never dull.
I mean, all I'll say is, you know, for a movie set in the future, it's really funny how many 1996 Ford Explorers there are. It's like, you guys could make up the technology to like exchange brains with each other, but like, didn't think to go any further than that. It literally looks like downtown Toronto. I was like, okay. 2002, we get The Hot Chick, which I think, for me at least, like when we're like, okay, what are some body swap movies? You get Freaky Friday, and then like Hot Chick stands out because we get, so obviously Rob Schneider is the main character, but the incredible female cast around him, including Rachel McAdams, Anna Faris. It's just, this movie is not good, but there are parts that I'm like, this shit's funny. I'm sorry, this shit's funny. When he, as Rob Schneider, is having a pillow fight with them and is knocking the shit out of them, that made me LOL out loud.
There's funny moments. I'll give it that.
There are funny moments. I think Rachel McAdams is committed to the bit.
I completely agree. And this was like her first movie or around there. And it's really frustrating that you don't get to see her. And more. I know like the joke is that Rob Schneider is her, but her as doing like Rob Schneider is so good and it's so good. Spot on that I was just like, why are we not spending more time with her?
Matthew Lawrence, I'll say the middle Lawrence, he is in this movie, and I remember at the time being like, he is so attractive. Yeah. This was like during his like, maybe he had just finished doing Boy Meets World, and I was just like, Tia and Tamara Mori are in this for some reason. Like,
body swap movies love twins.
Yes, they really do. They really do. The Hot Chick. It again, they like have to go to the extremes. Like Rob Schneider's character is like beyond slovenly, and Rachel McAdams' character is just like the, you know, high school bitch essentially. To me, it's not a real movie. And so it's hard. Like, yes, there are a lot of offensive things in this movie. It's like, you know, they've got fucking they literally get the artifact from a fucking, I don't know, African store at the mall. The movie opens literally with like some Egyptian princess who has to swap bodies to like save her from, I don't know, a bad guy. I don't know what I'm trying to say about this movie. For all the things
I don't know either.
For all the things that it's very bad, I'm like, I'm not mad at it. Like, it's Rob Schneider. What do you expect? You know, it's very bad. It's very stupid. And that's that. Gavin, I feel like you have a lot of feelings about The Hot Chick.
I do, but I'm keeping a lot of them inside for the moment.
Okay, girly, if you need to let them out, you let them out.
People are gonna be looking for me.
You gotta believe me.
I'm warning you.
Please, I'm Jessica.
Obviously, everybody knows we're getting to it. We've talked about it before. We talked about it in our Jamie Lee Curtis episode, 2003's Freaky Friday, the third remake of Disney's Freaky Friday, or the second remake, third film in the Freaky Friday oeuvre, if you will. Jamie Lee Curtis,
Lindsay Lohan.
Lindsay Lohan, as we just found out recently.
I guess.
So she says. Does she know?
Allegedly.
This is still a movie I don't like, so...
I think similarly to The Hot Chick, and now I'm realizing that they came out a year apart from each other. That's probably why they're stuck in my head together. Like, this was like a little mini boomlet again of these types of movies in the early aughts. And, you know, I think they're both not good, but I think they're both very indicative of our culture of the time.
Yeah.
And they're also very indicative of like what we were trying to like, what we were focusing on trying to learn from each other. You know, I don't think it's like a very deep learning. I think it's just very much like, oh, yeah, we should cut each other some slack. You know, obviously the hot chick is very less interested in learning. It's just like fucking, I mean, Rachel McAdams' character is the one who learns like, yeah, don't be an asshole to this fat girl in class. Like there are a lot of really fucking problematic things, but like the movie is essentially like, yes, hot girl, you can be a kind human to everyone and it's fine. And she's like, oh, LOL. In Freaky Friday, it's, from what I can remember, because I didn't rewatch it for this episode, but from what I can remember, it feels mostly like Lindsay Lohan's character really cutting some slack to the mom character who is, you know, in this new relationship and trying to, you know, have this second half of her life, you know, because she's so like disaffected and like so like kind of a really awful brat, you know.
Yeah.
Compared to Jodie Foster, it's like Jesus fucking Christ, like Lindsay
It
plays her.
It is interesting that both Jodie Foster and Gabby Hoffman play their characters slightly more detached. Interestingly enough, both kind of like early alt chicks, but like but more detached. And then Lindsay Lohan, who's like pop punk, like I hate authority, and the ultimate authority is mom.
Right, but also like it's the Ashley Simpson version of pop punk.
Yes.
You know, like it's in reality, I mean, watching this movie, it's like you are so fucking privileged and have everything, you stupid dumb bitch. That being said, like the song is iconic. Having Jamie Lee Curtis in the gig, like doing the number is like fun. I think Jamie Lee Curtis comes out better in this movie than Lindsay.
I mean, I agree, but I also think her performance is like, that's the thing that always gets me the most is, and once again, it comes from the writing, I'm sure, but literally like Lindsay Lohan's character, once she's in her mom, it's like, she's just to 11. It's insane.
She snaps. Like it's funny. Like I prefer Lindsay as Jamie than like Lindsay as Lindsay. So yeah, like the performances are what really saved that movie.
My hair, it's gone. And what is this? What have you done to my ear?
Mom, it's an earring.
Take it out. Take it out right now.
No, it looks cool.
Oh, don't start with me. And those clothes are going back first thing tomorrow.
Why? Everyone likes them. You look great.
I look like Stevie Nicks.
Who's he?
Yeah, so 2006, It's a Boy-Girl Thing. Awful fucking movie. Worst derivative garbage of it all. Like every single... my boo's a dick, and I'm a hot girl, and I'm a hot guy. And...
yeah, he's a football star. She's a mathlete or something.
Right. But also, she's literally played by Anna from the OC. So she is a very tiny, hot girl. It's like rapping is actually poetry. And they also like switched in front of like a fucking statue from Latin America. It's bad.
The one I do want to give a call out to, because I mentioned earlier in the show, Nobuhiko Obayashi got to remake his film I-R-U-U-M-E. In 2007, he renamed it Switching Goodbye Me. And it for the first hour basically follows the same pattern as the other movie, but then the twist is you find out the girl is dying. And so then it becomes the tension of like, is this boy going to live out this shortened bit of this girl's life, and she's going to live on in him? And I think it ends up being slightly more interesting, even though I think the original is a better made movie. This movie, for some reason, everything is a Dutch angle, but it gets really emotional. And literally I was weeping at the end.
It sounds very aggressive, and I'm going to have to watch.
Yes, I highly recommend it. It's very good. It's literally all up on YouTube, that movie, with subtitles. So
as we going into the late aughts, the body swap genre kind of peters out. Like, after the mini boom of the early aughts, it feels like it's kind of like a dying breed. The last real big screen release is The Change Up in 2011, where Ryan Reynolds is a guy's guy who likes women, and I don't know, and Jason Bateman is married with kids, and they fucking fall into a mountain or some shit. Oh, they're peeing in the mountain.
They're peeing in a fountain, yeah, and then they have to do it again, and it causes a power outage. And this one was hard, because this one I was like, did we learn anything? Did anyone learn anything? Are we all dumber?
Yeah.
Also, first odd thing that doesn't really have to do with the movie, or one of the first movies that I know of that instead of having the women go topless, they digitally altered the women so they look topless. So
really?
So neither Leslie Mann or Olivia Wilde actually appear nude in the film. It's actually digital breasts.
That's fucking nuts. And my God, 2011, get it together. But yeah, there's not really a lot in the culture around body swapping.
You get a lot of in America, it ends up back on TV. You get 2016's The Swap, which is a Disney original movie, which was kind of fun, not great, but it had some good stuff in it. I will say I was a little shocked that it had good stuff in it. You get the 2018 Freaky Friday, the third remake. This time it's a musical. It's so bad, and questionably has a song in which the mother in the daughter's body sings about how much she wants to fuck her daughter's crush. And I was just like,
truth?
I was like, what the fuck?
They do switch out the vehicle for swapping to a hourglass.
Yes, magic hourglass,
which is a choice, I guess.
Yeah. So in the original, it's a wish. In the 90s, it's a talisman. In the early 2000s, it's a racist fortune cookie, and then in the in 2018, it's a magical hourglass.
Yes, correct. Quite a journey. And so the musical movie comes out on Disney Channel, but also it famously was on Broadway or off Broadway at least.
Yes, yeah.
Was a flopperella.
I did want to mention 2016's Your Name, which is an animated film from Japan that is interesting because it adds an extra layer of the fact it's like Body Swap meets The Lake House, where
it's Body Swap sci-fi.
Yes, where they're moving through time and they don't realize it,
and it's fucking cool. Looks gorgeous, and this was the first movie I saw where they were we text each other and said, "Hey, don't do this with my body, please." And there is levels of these are normal human beings, and they're like, "Oh, hey, I told this girl I'm gonna do this." They're leaving each other notes to know, because they can't control when they swap. They basically go to bed and randomly wake up as each other at different times. It's they swing for the fences and the moon and the stars. I don't know if it sticks the landing, but it's just impressive to watch.
2019, there's a South Korean film that comes out called The Dude in Me, which is not the first time I've watched a movie called The Dude in Me, but it was not this.
LOL.
And
disgusting.
You've seen it too. That stars a pop star, like a South Korean K-pop star.
Incredible.
He switches like he's like an awkward heavy-set kid, and he switches places with a gangster, and the gangster like turns his life around, like makes him lose all this weight, like becomes really like menacing in a way, like becomes super popular, but also like kind of a like menacing force. And most of the movie, the kid spends in a coma in the adult body, but then when he wakes up, all hell sort of breaks loose because he's in this very like tough mobster's body, and all he wants to do is like cry and freak out because he's not in his own body. Which I thought, this was the first time I was like, this makes sense to me. If you're a sensitive young man and you're suddenly in an adult's body and nobody recognizes you, yeah, I might do the same thing. But I thought this movie was actually pretty good, and it's all up. I think it's up on Tubi, so you should. I would recommend watching it. It's very good.
The not latest, but I would say the latest mainstream movie to be in the genre is 2020's Freaky, which is the body swap genre mashed up with a horror, maybe not horror, but like what a thriller slasher. There it is, and a young woman swaps with a killer. And
a Jason Voorhees-esque killer.
Yes. And it basically does the thing of like, oh, there's a killer on the loose, but also ancient artifact. The knife that he stabs her with is this artifact. They swap bodies.
It's like an Aztec artifact.
Right. And now he, as this young girl, is going around killing people just because he's the killer. And we get a very funny Vince Vaughn playing a young girl.
Yeah. I hate Vince Vaughn, and I thought he was good in this. So
I know. It's very frustrating.
Get out of here. What are you doing? Go.
I want my body back.
Come and get it.
I like Freaky a lot, actually. I'm not a slasher person at all, but I like that this movie said, you know what, we're not going to kill the black girl and we're not going to kill the gay kid. And I said, thank you so much for that.
I like it a lot too, I'll be honest. And I would willingly watch a sequel to this, though I know a sequel to this would only get dumber, I think.
Yeah.
But and like, listen, the end gets violent because it is a slasher movie, but like, I don't know. I had a good time for the most part.
The people that die, they deserve it. They were bad people.
Casting judgment.
I mean, the movie's also very funny. It's very funny, and I think it's full of
I think some of the dialogue is very like, kids say this, right? But
it is. I mean, millennials wrote this movie. It's very fun, and the stakes. I mean, my God, they're like, if you don't go back by the fucking moon or some shit, you'll be stuck as an old man forever. And
which is exactly an old man that everybody knows is now a killer.
Right. It's like there's a lot here about like the mom and the daughter, a lot about just like a lot of this female empowerment. Like they gave us 2 endings where the women get to kill him.
Yes.
That is our quick little rewind through body swap movies. Anything else to say, Gavin, before we get into our picks?
No, I think we sort of spelled everything out. So why don't we move into our 1-star reviews to get the bad out of the way before swapping into the 5-star reviews?
LOL, not a swapping. There are a lot of bad movies in this genre. Let us be very...
There's so many bad movies in this genre.
Let us be clear about that. But for me, the worst is 1989's Dream a Little Dream. And I think it is the worst because it just completely misses the assignment. Like, in trying to complicate the swap 4 ways through all these people, they don't swap at all. Like, there is no change. Like, Corey Feldman is doing nothing. He is just Corey Feldmaning about. I feel like this movie probably had 10 billion writers, or probably started off as a movie about, love and, spending eternity with someone and like the fragility of time. And it got fucking washed through 1989's cocaine-fueled fever dream.
Yeah.
Or they were like, the studio was like, we got Corey Feldman, let's spice it up. And it's just such a fucking bonkers nothing burger of a movie. Like, this movie thinks by having like Corey Feldman in this dreamland is telling the old man, like, you gotta do something to get the girl or you're gonna lose her forever. And this movie thinks the way to do that is by having a music number where Corey Feldman like is doing this kind of sexy Michael Jackson remix of
Dream a Little Dream.
Dream a Little Dream. And the girl's like, oh my God, what? But the thing is, how would this old man know how to do this? You know, or the behavior of this old man literally is, I'm zen, I'm free, I'm thinking of, like, it's very philosophical. There is nothing about Corey Feldman's performance, his speech pattern, his behavior, that is like this old man. And so this is a movie that is telling us there's a body swap happening, but it's not showing us, which kind of just like sucks all the fun out of it. You know, like for all the bad movies that I watched, at least they fucking did the body swap at the very least. And, you know, if I can move past, you know, all the fucking shitty, you know, gender things and the racist shit, like at least they're doing the assignment. And this movie just doesn't, it's all flash and no substance, which is just very upsetting because there are movies in this time period where I think work.
You wouldn't by any chance know how to switch us back.
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, it just so happens to be one of the very first things that I learned about. Well, then let's do it now. What do you mean,
Well, which word don't you understand?
The whole idea.
You see, I like it here. It's dreamy.
If you catch my drift.
That's a very good 1-star review. It was very much in contention for me. I have to say, I'm going to get it out of the way because I did kind of hint about it at top. This was not my favorite of any subject we've covered. I just kept feeling bad. I just kept watching these movies and feeling bad. And I did find movies I like. Listen, those Japanese films, chef's kiss. That South Korean film, fun. Had a lot of fun. But Dream a Little Dream, such trash. The hot chick is such trash. And you're right. There are things that make me laugh in it. I won't lie. There are things that absolutely make me laugh in that movie. But it is so unbearably racist when it doesn't have to be. I mean, the character of Ling Ling and the whole idea that like she's pretending to be black, but she's Asian. And then you have this very stereotypical Asian mom. And then the ending of the movie, which is Rob Schneider, his punishment is that he's going to go get gay raped.
Yeah.
Like that's the punishment for his character at the end of the movie.
Yeah. I almost saw it come. Like you see it coming. You're like, this character for sure is being set up as like a punchline later. Yeah.
But I think the worst thing, and shockingly enough, it's one of the movies that's closer to now, is 2011's The Change Up.
Wow.
The Change Up is unrepentantly bad. It's, you know, a gross out comedy, whatever. I don't, you know, gross out stuff doesn't affect me, but at the same time, I'm like, am I supposed to laugh when a baby shits in a character's mouth? Like it, but on top of that, Ryan Reynolds' character is so unforgivably racist in this movie that no matter how much he learns while he's switched with Jason Bateman, he will still be a truly, truly despicable human being. He has a meeting with a group of Japanese people, and sorry, pardon me, but I'm just quoting the movie. He calls them Japs. There's a scene in which he sees Jason Bateman, and he literally goes, "Hey, faggot, what are you doing here?"
It's like you always say, Dave is a little bit of a pussy.
I always say that.
Yeah.
I always say that because it's true. You know, Dave is a bit of pussy. A bit of pussy.
Oh, holy fuck knuckles! I've got freckles on my taint. How awesome is that? Hey, fag, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Why? This was 2011. Why was any of this acceptable? It's horrific.
What's wild is that in Dream a Little Dream, which was back in 1988, there's literally a moment when one of the Corys says to the other Cory, like, "Are you fagging out on me, man?" When he's telling him that. And so the connection and
it's
the
deep.
The homophobia really just unrepentant.
And that's why I was surprised with something like Dating the Enemy, where you would think that like a man in a woman's body would then not, and then he has sex with a man and it's kind of like, okay, well, I guess that happened. That's an experience.
Yeah.
So like, it doesn't have to be if you think about it hard enough, but you're not. And I think that's the problem with the Change Up is it's going for such easy laughs and such predictable, stereotypical ideas that it didn't bring anything new to the table. Also, once again, the fun of these movies is watching these characters play each other. Ryan Reynolds can't do Jason Bateman. So he's just doing the Ryan Reynolds thing that Ryan Reynolds
can play Ryan Reynolds. That's it.
Yeah. Jason Bateman's trying to do Ryan Reynolds, but also he has a very particular acting style. But I think he achieves slightly more than Ryan Reynolds ever does in that movie. I don't know. I hated every second of it. I hope Alan Arkin got paid a lot for the small amount of the movie that he's in. Yeah, I mean, I think there's moments of it I fully blocked out because I feel like there's things I don't even remember. But by the end of it, I was just like, I hope they don't switch back. I just hope they all die.
I've seen this movie for sure. I must have seen it just by myself, I guess. I did not watch it again for this episode, but I remember, I mean, like, this movie was coming off the heels of the Hangover, Wedding Crashes of it all. Like, that was the culture of, like, dudes being bad and, like, how crazy. I mean, this was, I mean, 2011.
There's like a joke in it that Ryan Reynolds has been fucking a pregnant woman because he picked her up from a like Lamaze class, and Jason Bateman is so disgusted by the idea of fucking a pregnant woman that he like vomits. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if this is, I'm not excusing this at all, but like, it's just kind of wild when I think of 2005, I think of like the beginning of Lady Gaga and Kesha, but like for straight people, it was, you know, or for like a lot of people, you know, we were in the recession and like all we wanted to do was poop jokes and fart jokes and vomit and lots of fucking drinking and like crazy antics that were this very toxic masculinity nonsense. So very good pick, Gavin. My God, I guess we could talk forever about the things we didn't like.
Yes. I mean, once again, the hot chick was not my cup of tea outside of Rachel McAdams and Anna Faris.
Exchange was very close to being my 1-star review.
I have such a soft spot for like bad 80s direct-to-video sci-fi, but you're right. You're not wrong.
Bad. And sadly, the first girl in the canon, 1940s Turnabout.
Turnabout was so hard to even get through. You know, they tried to remake it in the 70s as a like TV show, and it flopped so hard that they ended up like re-editing the episodes into like a TV movie just to get rid of it. A movie we did not even bring up, and I just wanted to like point out, I watched a movie called A Christmas Switch from 2018, and it was faith-based nonsense.
Oh.
And so like, don't watch that. It's like,
don't talk about the Bible that way.
It's a fucking weird thing. Both of the leads, both women that switch, looked exactly like each other. So it was also very hard to tell. I was like, would their lives be that different?
Right. And the last thing I'll mention is this: it's a boy-girl thing. It's just what old people thought 2006 was like. It's bad, horrifying. I don't know how this movie was born, but here she is. It is a disaster. Anyway, Gavin.
Yeah, let's get out of this movie. Let's wish upon a star and move into our 5-star reviews.
I see what you did there. My 5-star review. I had a couple that I was going back and forth with, but through our conversation and talking, I think my 5-star review is 1988's Vice Versa. It truly is just, it's all the cliches, but it makes them work. It really understands like what the benefit of body swap movies are supposed to be doing. You know, it's not to show how different we are and how, you know, crazy it is. It's to show how different we are and how it doesn't matter, you know, and I think the central relationship between the son and the dad is just so, it's very easy. Like a lot of, I think, people have this relationship where dad wants son to be a certain way, do a certain thing, and son is like, I'm a kid. Can I be a kid? Can I have fun? And it's literally nothing more than that. And, you know, and like those stakes might not be super high, but like for an 11-year-old, like it's a lot. It's everything.
It's a lot.
You know?
Yeah.
And it felt like, even though this movie does have a lot of the like radical 80s vibe to it, nothing feels like so fucking bonkers and like out of the realm of possibility, you know? Like there is kind of like the fun side B plot of like Susie Kurtz and like the jar that like fucking makes the switch happen. But it's just, for me, it was just mostly, it's a 90-minute movie. It's, for me, like this, a lot of fun. I love the idea that the focus here is on the dad who has to really loosen up. I think most of the times these movies want us just to be like, oh yeah, see, parents don't understand how hard it is in school and how fucking crazy it is with bullies and shit. It's like they give the kid some credit, and it's like, that's not his story here. It's really just how his dad doesn't listen to him, and, you know, how he has actual wants.
It was this, don't you remember? You were holding it, and you said that...
I know what I said. I said I wish we could change places. Well, somebody must have thought it was a pretty good idea, because we have. So you better get dressed. Because you're going to school in 20 minutes.
Don't be crazy. I can't go to school.
It'll look pretty weird if I go to school. I must weigh 200 pounds.
176.
Being able to reveal a lot about the dad that is actually this, because he is his father's son, you know, like he is already within him. And that's also the thing I liked about this. Like, you know, for this relationship, they are already a part of each other, you know? And so to be able to remind them of that, like, you know, yeah, there is this fun side of you, dad. And, it was just very sweet, but also very fun. So yeah, I give it to 1988's Vice Versa.
I'm going to cheat a little.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to pick a movie we didn't even talk about.
Don Cheadle?
I'm going to Don Cheadle. And I think the best body swap movie are maybe the ones that are a little more esoteric. And I'm talking about the ones that, like, they fall under our definition, but they are a little more ambiguous about what's going on, you know. And that, for that, I'm talking about, you know, the Ingmar Bergman's Persona or the David Lynch Mulholland Drive. But I think the real piece de resistance of these is 1977's Three Women, which is a film directed by Robert Altman, one of my favorite filmmakers. This is a film about three women, mostly about two women, but there is a third woman. Mildred Millie Lamoureux, played by Shelley Duvall, is this gregarious, kind of annoying, outspoken woman, and she starts training this new woman, Mildred Pinky Rose, who she just refers to as Pinky, at her job. And Pinky sort of ingratiates herself into Millie's life. Eventually, Millie ends up yelling at her. You know, she's the soft, sweet little girl. She doesn't really have social skills. Millie yells at her, and Pinky tries to kill herself, and she goes into a coma. And while she's in a coma, Millie starts taking on the personality aspects of Pinky. So much so that when Pinky wakes up, when Millie has brought her parents from Texas with her, Pinky's like, I don't know those people, and stop calling me Pinky. My name is Mildred. And she takes over the Shelley Duvall personality. And there's this weird little back and forth about like, what's going on? Like, who are these people? You find out Pinky has lied on her job description. She somehow gave Millie's social security number on her job application, even though she didn't know her at the time. And through a course of events, their personalities switch. And by the end of the movie, this third woman, Willie Hart, who was this pregnant woman throughout the film, who owns, her and her husband own the like apartment complex, which actually looks much more like a hotel, that Millie and Pinky live in. By the end of the film, suddenly Shelley Duvall's character Millie is now so much more like Willie. And Pinky has reverted back to her previous personality. And so there's like very dream-like logic moving around. Everybody between these women are sort of swapping personalities.
Did you get your social security card?
What is this, a third degree? What are you getting at?
You gave Miss Bunwell my social security number when you filled out your W-4 form.
Who says I did?
Both Dr. Mice and Miss Bunwell.
Well, they're both wrong. Why would I do anything like that?
I'm just trying to help you, Pinky.
Will you stop calling me that? How many times do I have to tell you my name is Mildred? You got it? It's Mildred!
Robert Altman said that this idea for this movie came to him in a dream. His wife was in the hospital and he woke up in the middle of the night and wrote down a bunch of notes. He eventually turned it into a 50-page treatment, which he brought to Fox Studio, which at the time, studio manager Alan Ladd Jr. was a big proponent of Robert Altman because MASH had made them so much money, and he knew that Star Wars was making them so much money that it didn't matter what Robert Altman wanted to make, it'd be okay. So in a 20-minute pitch meeting, Robert Altman pitched him this very dreamlike film about body swapping and identity theft and personality switching, and Alan Ladd Jr. gave him the money to go make it. And so yeah, he did. He didn't even tell Alan Ladd Jr. until the premiere of the film that it was based on a dream. And yeah, it's just a very beautiful, beautiful movie. There's a lot of doubling in the film. There's all these paintings of monsters throughout the film. It's wonderful and glorious. And honestly, Shelley Duvall, who came up with most of her dialogue in the movie, had to improvise most of her dialogue, wrote a lot of it down in diaries. And Sissy Spacek just are both powerhouses in this film. And it's great to see them act against each other. Highly recommend this movie. Very serious subjects though. There's sexual situations, there's death. But very much worth your time.
Okay, but Gavin, do they body swap?
Yes.
You said that their personalities switch, girly.
I mean, maybe. I mean, it's very clear that Pinky does become Millie, at least.
Okay.
It's very dreamy.
Okay. Gavin,
I said esoteric.
You are on thin ice, hun.
Listen, I didn't like these movies. I had to come up with something.
I am glad that you brought up Mulholland Drive, though, because I did watch that. And I'm so sorry, but I have no fucking clue what that movie's about. Like, I am but a dumb little boy. I was like, I don't get it. I'm sorry, film nerds of America. I don't get it. Like, not for me. I'm happy for you. Love that. Thank you so much. But
I just want everybody to know Mulholland Drive is brilliant. So
thank you so much, everyone. Yes, we love film, cinema. Love that.
I mean,
high art.
But those, I mean, I do feel like those three movies, Persona, Three Women, Mulholland Drive, are all in conversation with each other, and it's all a little more heady, perhaps, than just like wishing on a statue and switching.
Oh yeah, I mean, like it's exclusively heady. Like I would argue, and like I haven't seen Three Women and I haven't seen Persona. I did see Mulholland Drive. I would argue, and this is not me like sliding the movie, but like it is just headiness. It is just a mindfuck. And this is a mixed review at the expense of entertainment, I would say. Like, it is not like a good time gal in any sense of the word. Like, it's just like, it's one of those movies that's meant to be like, oh, fuck. Like, it was this shit, which some people like, some people do not. That movie is not holding your hand, is what I'll say. That movie is fucking pushing you down a flight of stairs, and maybe or maybe you not, you switch bodies with someone else. But who can ever be sure?
I think Mulholland Drive is very entertaining, but I get it. I get what you're saying. And I do still really recommend you watching Three Women. I think you would get a lot out of it. I think it's a lot less that sort of.
I will say those actresses you mentioned. Yes. God, yes, Queen. So yeah, what are there anything else we want to mention that we really liked? I think, Freaky is a very good reset for the genre. I have to say I was really surprised. I think Wish Upon a Star is underrated classic.
Wish Upon a Star is so much fun, and even though once again TV movie, I would highly recommend watching it. And
it's on YouTube for free.
Yeah, and like, say what you will about Katherine Heigl, because I don't really think she's that much. I think she's great in it. You know,
you say what you want about Katherine Heigl, and I will say that I like her a lot, and that is that on that. Also, Your Name, like, these just very weird entries into the genre, like, just very good.
I will also once again reiterate 2007's Switching Goodbye Me. If you are not emotional by the end of that movie, you are dead inside.
And that's that on that.
Exactly.
All right. Excellent. Let's do our mixed reviews review. My 1-star review is 1989's Dream a Little Dream.
And my 1-star review is 2011's The Change Up.
My 5-star review is 1988's Vice Versa.
And my 5-star review is 1977's Three Women.
Because Gavin is a liar who doesn't like fun.
Also true.
Okay, Gavin, let's get into our fast forward.
What do you want out of the Body Swap movie? Because I can tell you what I want.
I think Body Swap movies can deliver on two different fronts. The classique front is antics. But I want I think Wish Upon a Star is a really good example, like, of antics that make sense. Like, what would you really do if you suddenly were the popular girl in school? You know, you would date the hot guy. You would wear the fun clothes. You would get away with, like, not murder, but like LOL murder. But then the quick reversal of like, oh, the expectation, I'm not supposed to be smart. People don't, I think that's the first track. The second track is like fully fucking sci-fi insanity of like something like Your Name, where it's like, what a release from your everyday life, Like, I think we can all relate to this idea of like, what could I do if I wasn't me for a day, with no consequences, and I can just be free, live someone else's life in Your Name, we didn't mention it, but it's literally this girl from a rural town in Japan, and she wakes up in the big city. And how exciting is that? She's just so excited to go to a cafe, literally a cafe. And there's puppies there, and there's amazing food.
Oh my God. I love that scene.
I know, it's so good. And she's just so excited to be out of her own skin and into this life of privilege. But there's like this crazy sci-fi element of like, we're all entangled together. So those are like the two things I really like. But I guess the core of it is like, the connection between the people just has to be really fucking good. Like, that's what it comes down to. When you look at Freaky Friday with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, like, that movie sucks, but like, because those two people are very good, like, that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the elevation is there because of them. Yeah,
right. And even like in Freaky, the relationships between the the girl and her mom and her sister and her friends are so strong, you know, she's not learning anything from a murderer. What she's learning is how to stand up for herself. To learn how to stand up for yourself from literally a guy who murders, like, it's fucking hilarious. It's literally, this man is, he gives no fucks and is going to do anything he wants. There's no shame at all in his life, you know, and for her to learn to like put herself first. And also this movie doesn't sexualize her when she's doing her like hot girl walk. The camera doesn't linger on her ass. She's literally wearing jeans and a leather jacket. She looks fucking cool. I think the main thing is, you know, what is the flaw with the person and what are they trying to learn? How are we trying to get there? And that's like the core.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could say it better myself because I don't want anything from these until the, you know, the problems, the sexism, the rampant sexism, the racism, like until that stuff is solved, a lot of these movies don't do enough or do the right stuff or like, and so they're just frustrating to watch because I'm just like, I can live without this nonsense, you know?
Well, I think, you know, there are movies that have figured it out. I think the problem is Hollywood wants easier answers. And like I said, is not making room for nuance. Is not making, like in Wish Upon a Star, these girls have layers. The extremeness of like this popular girl and putting on her front of like being hot and like slutty, it is a front, and we get to reveal those layers through the body swap. And so there is nuance there, and it's like, oh, that's relatable. It's not relatable to see Corey Haim as an alleged old man doing a fucking Michael Jackson number. Like, that's not reality. That's not showing us who Corey Feldman's character is. That's not showing us who this old man's character is. You don't see that. In Freaky, we get to know this girl. You know, she obviously is a pretty girl, but she doesn't want to go away to school because she's worried her mom is gonna like fucking kill herself. You know, she's still hung up on her dad who passed away. You know, and we are learning about this girl who, wants to be popular, wants to get with the guy. I forgot to mention, literally Vince Vaughn makes out with that teen boy in this movie.
Yeah, and that teen boy was into it too. Like
he sure the fuck was. She
has to be the one to be like, let's pull it back for a bit.
Yeah, let's not. But you know, there are solutions. Like there are movies that are able to, you know, do this without like we don't need an ancient talisman from ancient Aztec Americans or whatever. Like it's kind of what we talk about when we talked about, funnily enough, Miyazaki films. Miyazaki films are like, there is no villain. It just is.
Right.
And there is like the journey is internal, and that's exciting and dramatic. In a lot of Western and specifically American movies, there needs to be the thing. There needs to be the thing that you need to do in time for the thing. And what's fucking crazy is a lot of these movies specifically tell us there is no thing, even though they've gone all the way to like kiss again or pee on each other again or whatever the fucking thing is. It typically doesn't work. And then they like look at each other and they're like, I only wanted to do it because of the thing. And then like, oh, it's actually being emotional and crying to each other and like being vulnerable is what gets them back together. I will say, even though some movies have that problem, there is still, I think, a lot of fun in the genre to be had, and going through the movies and finding that fun. I think we didn't talk a lot about 18 Again. I think 18 Again is really fun because in that movie, there is no racist shit. It's like they're in a car crash. It makes no fucking sense, but like switching bodies doesn't make sense.
Right.
It's not like we don't have to reach, you know, to some fucking obscure culture. We're body swapping, guys. It's fine. You can just tell us that you wanted it and it happened. That's as plausible as a fucking Ruby that will switch bodies. Right. I feel bad, Gavin. I'm sorry. And also, we've been like watching movies for this for a long time now. But I think there is, you know, the core idea of, you know, learning from someone by literally being them.
No, and I do think that, I mean, I think there's merit there. I just think there's vast room for improvement, and maybe
Yes.
that'll come.
I think there's vast room for improvement, but there's also vast room for error. Because there are so many pitfalls of like, we need some racist shit. We need easy jokes about like boobs and, you know, like whatever. It's, you really don't. You really, really don't. There is enough awkwardness within being someone else and enough comedy and humor to be found there that you don't have to rely on, oh no, I like fucking women. I don't want babies. Like that's an easy elevator pitch, which great, I guess, you know, like
but that's the problem is a lot of the ideas don't evolve past that, and they should.
Right. And I mean, I can imagine that elevator pitch. It's like, picture this, a guy has 2 kids and instead now he has got 2 bitches. Hey, that's a movie. Like, I don't know why he's Jersey, but that's what came to me.
That's who he is.
That's who he is.
Deep down. And if you were to body swap with him, you would learn what it truly meant to be Jersey.
If only. If you could body swap with anyone, Gavin, who would it be?
Oh, God. I don't know. If I did, whoever, could I then immediately just kill my body? Just to get rid of it?
You're like, nope, it's over. Bye.
Yeah, bye. I'm you now. Who would you? That's such a big question.
That is a big question. I mean,
for you, it'd be Betty Who. Just admit it.
No, because now, I mean, I love Betty Who, but like, I want someone who's like a little bit more popular and famous and has money.
I don't want to have to work for it.
Well, I will say Betty Who would be fun because, like, especially during Pride season. If I could swap during Pride season, I would go with Betty Who because I can just go to all the prides across the country. But you know what? Let's get some, like, I want the gay best friend and like the straight girlfriend to do a body swap to be like a full satire of that. I would body swap with, honestly, like you're right though, like a singer would be amazing. Like imagine, I mean, that would be so cool to be like, I'm on tour going around the world. Like that'd be to actually be able to sing. I don't know, you know.
That was actually part of the plot of the Christmas Switch, and one of them couldn't sing. So
and see, maybe I should. That's my story. But there are a lot of these movies. I really hope you listeners out there will reach out and tell us what your favorite ones are. If we missed any, there are certainly a lot of that. I mean, Gavin dutifully, thankfully touched on some foreign movies. There are plenty more out there from like India and Europe. So
yeah, we can't get to everything, unfortunately, but we've given you a primer. So go out, swap some bodies.
Yes,
don't be
swap
racist.
Some bodies. Don't be racist when you do it, though. Please don't be racist. But thank you guys so much for listening.
Absolutely. So that wraps up our body swap episode. But if you want to find us online, you can always contact us on Twitter at The Mixed Reviews.
We're also on Facebook. Just type in The Mixed Reviews.
If you want to email us, you can write us at thereviewsmixed@gmail.com.
We're also on Instagram at _mixed_reviews.
And if you want to listen to our back catalog of episodes, you can subscribe to our show on a plethora of podcast apps. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Audible, anywhere that you want to just type us into Google, you'll find it. And if you do listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please stop by, leave us a 5-star rating, and write a little review. Even if it's just an emoji, it helps us get up in the algorithm. It body swaps us with a more popular podcast.
And that's the goal, okay? We're body swapping up the charts, hun. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back in 2 weeks. I believe we have a little special guest as well, so that's something to look forward to.
It might be our very first returning guest.
Ooh. I don't know why it's spooky. It's just return from the dead.
Yeah. And we're just going to body swap with them.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'd like to be you for a day. I'd like to climb into the dreams you hide, to know the grown-up and the child inside, whatever makes you smile.